Dear respected teacher, dear elder brothers and elder sisters, dear Sangha, can you hear okay? So this autumn retreat, we are exploring for 3 months Thai's 14 mindfulness training of the order of Interbeing. It's like a tradition that Thai found. And so some of you are new to our community, to Plum Village, so please do your best. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's okay. But in the autumn time, the 3 months, our brothers and sisters, we like to go focus on a particular topic so that it nourishes all of us to go deeper, to understand Thai, to understand our tradition. So the order of Interbeing is a kind of new vision of Thai. It's a kind of Thai is trying to. Back then, he didn't really envision himself having monastic disciples. And I think we've heard him share that. He's like, "Oh, there's already too many teachers with too many students. I will just teach the students of other teachers." So he really wanted to just to be doing the part of teaching and not having students. I think during that time he experimented a lot. You can see some old pictures of Thai. His hair is kind of long. And I think he's probably aware of the hippie movement. Because you sometimes see Thai's old picture, he looks kind of cool. Looks kind of like renegade. And he didn't really wear the formal robe like you see Thai does now. And with the OI jacket. And we see Thai evolve from a kind of, hippie-ish monk traveling and experimenting. And anyway, this is my perception, okay? You have to ask Thai yourself. For me, that's how I begin to understand a little bit of the order of Interbeing, as well as our tradition, to kind of not to make such a distinction, but the Buddhist teaching is to help us liberate ourselves and to relieve suffering within us and to relieve suffering in the world. That's the main purpose. Buddhism is not here to describe the world, the reality, the nature of things, or how we came to be. It's not philosophical. When the Buddha found this path, it's to help relieve suffering. That's it. And as Buddhism evolved, it became more and more philosophical, academic, and theoretical. So Thai's a new order of Interbeing is to kind of revive that. So this is something we need to look deeply, practice deeply, so we can understand our teacher more and to understand what we're doing here in Plum Village, as well as the Sangha building and so on. So today I've been asked to share about the 4 principles of the order of Interbeing. So the order of Interbeing has the precepts, the 14 precepts, and the underlining foundation, the spirit of the 14 mindfulness training. Thai has shared it and kind of put it into the 4 principles or 4 spirits of the order of Interbeing. That's openness, direct experimentation, appropriateness, and skillfulness. So I'll write that up. And before we understand those four, why they were important to Thai, we will look a little bit at the conditions, some of the conditions that existed when Thai was becoming, evolving as a young monk. So this is my own reflection, and just to try to understand more. And I leave it up to you to study more and to look more deeply at why these four are so important for during Thai's time as it is now in our time. So the first principle is openness. The second one is direct experimentation. The third one is appropriateness. And the last one is skillfulness. And these are things that are not to just write down in notes, for us to reflect on in our practice. They are the spirit that guides our practice. And to understand a little bit, at least my own looking, I tried to look at what was happening during Thai's time. The conditions, there's a misspelling, skillful. Skillness is not a word yet. Skillfulness. 2 L's? 2 L? 4 L's? Yes. 1 L somewhere there, right? Maybe here. We? No? The other one. Oh. It's not very skillful. Voila. So I was reflecting a little bit of, and we've heard Thai share how he was inspired when he learned about what Buddhism did one time during Vietnam's history, how it actually was very integrated in society, in politics, a lot of Buddhists were teachers of political leaders, so it was very integrated. And so Buddhism was never like something you do outside of what was happening in society. So this is something. So during Thai's time, there was a war going on. This is 1968, what we call the Tet Offensive. It's like a lot of violence happening. This is in the war's history, they say this is the height of when the Vietnamese kind of wanted to show America that they are not giving up. So there was a lot of atrocity happening in 1968. And just to let us know the OI order, (1966). So this is when Thai, I have a feeling Thai had formulated these teachings and trainings before that, but we put the 66 is when Sister Chang Kong and the six cedar. No, did they have Kai yet? The six first OI members, 3 men and 3 women, were ordained. So we look and we see that during that time, there were bombs being thrown onto the country, and people were dying. And we have to imagine that time. So how to help And we all know the story of Thai saying that, if you're a monk and you're sitting in the monastery and you're chanting, and there are bombs and people being blown to pieces outside, you do not sit in the temple and continue to chant. So this is just to understand a little bit Thai's intention. And during this time, there was a lot of young people's movement. Students were going into the streets, in the universities, and this was happening in Vietnam and in the US. So in the 60s, mid-60s, this was happening. The young people were actually a great part of the... How many of you were part of that movement? Some of you here? Yeah? A few? I see hands. In America, a lot of OI members were from that area. And I remember Thai shared with me one time he was in Columbia University and there was a student protest. And Thai was witnessed that. And so this also informs us why the student, what is it? The SYSS? What does it stand for? Social service. School, yes. School for youth and social service. So this, you can see what Thai was trying to do, trying to help bring, have students gather and to help. And this is during the time when Thai starts to envision also a kind of plum village. Phương Bối, fragrant palm village in the mountainside. Because he saw as we were doing social service and I guess helping, we also needed a place to retreat and to revitalize ourselves. There was also religious persecution there was a big a kind of attack because the person who came into political power had Catholic backgrounds. So there was a lot of tension between and other Buddhist religious sects as well. So this was happening during that time. As well as the big reason for all that was the political ideology. The communists, the democracy, and then of course the capitalists and so on. So there's a lot of that happening. They're afraid of we learn more of the war in Vietnam, the history, as things are coming out more. You see, I think there was recently a 10-part series on the war in Vietnam. And we see that actually a lot of it was so unnecessary. It was a wrong perception. The idea that because if you allow one country to become communist, that was not even necessarily, that assumption was true, that the whole entire area, what is it, they call it the domino effect. And you see how the concept that creates the fear, as we are doing now with terrorists, but it's a new thing. It's not kind of domino effect, but it's a more We don't know a term yet for it, but it is, you see the view, the things that make us have fear and will not let go. Because of this fear, some of our political leaders, the presidents and so on, were afraid and they got stuck in. And because they were stuck in, their pride came up. No longer can I be the president that let America fail. So this stuckness because of a view, an idea. And if you're working on the ground and this is happening out there, and Thai seeing that it's not happening in Vietnam, it's not only place where we're going to find peace and resolution to this. And this moved Thai to go to the US to try to convince the intellectuals, the political leaders, the religious leaders to change that idea. So this is some of the conditions that was happening at the time that the OI, the order, the training, the charter, Thai writes the whole complete, not just the training, but the charter, how it should be organized, and so on. And this also, during this time, these movements in the US, Thai meets with Martin Luther King, where after the meeting, Dr. Martin Luther King gave a speech beyond Vietnam. So there's a lot happening as well. Thai came into contact with that while he traveled the US. That there are a lot of like-minded people doing the Merton and so on. And Thai at this time also starts to look into forming the Vạn Hạnh University. So Thai is trying also to re-envision a kind of a Buddhism that is informed and interactive. Engaged Buddhism is born during this time. Thai is engaged Buddhism in the sense of with these conditions. Of course, this I think Thai had shared that there's a movement like this happening also in China with another Buddhist monk. But this is to understand a little bit what, because when we look at how something is manifests, we need to look at the condition. So that will inform us and understand what Thai was trying to do. So those are the kind of a little bit kind of external conditions in society, and we can also look into Thai, what inspires him, the Li and Dung dynasty. This is where Buddhism was very integrated with society, not separate. And Thai shares a lot about this. And during this time, Thai began to write, before the founding of the order, he wrote 2 books, kind of like modernized Buddhism. Đạo Phật hiện đại hóa in Vietnamese. hiện đại hóa. And then he writes another one, socially engaged Buddhism. This one is Đạo Phật đi vào cuộc đời. So here Thầy is expressing, and he's also in this time writing many articles in Buddhist magazines to share his vision of a Buddhism that is very connected to society, working with in politics, social service, as well as in education, in organization, and so on. And this is a vision of Thầy for the SYSS, the School of Youth and Social Service. In the School of Youth and Social Service, they went into the villages and they helped organize the healthcare, the running of the management, as well as very practical things, helping the farmers dig for wells. And so it wasn't just go there and teach Buddhism, but it's go there and you see. This was Thay's vision of like monastics or OI members doing not just what do you call it, philosophical ideas, but actually very practical. So it's an engaged, practical Buddhism that is not just like in the temple, in the university, but actually embedded in society. So we can begin to see these four principles based on that these conditions. Where there was very intense debate between two ideas, and Thai saw that very clearly, that it caused a lot of suffering just based on a viewpoint, having an agenda, right? And so the first principle of the order of interbeing is openness. It is in Vietnamese is phá chấp. This is very interesting. When I read the Vietnamese, it's not cởi mở. Cởi mở is openness, right? But it's phá chấp. Like phá is to phá, right? To remove, but it also means to mess around. To phá, to remove, huh? To remove, and chấp is kind of like a stuckness. To remove stuckness, or Thai would say it's also thủ, a kind of grasping. Very interesting, huh? Openness is to remove your, openness is like this, right? But this way is describing to remove your, and everyone can relate to that. When you have a view and you think you're right, it's pretty tight. He's wrong. You hold your breath, right? When you're right, you hold your breath. And you know that feeling, right? Yeah. So you see, openness is very, it's up to you. You want to hold, or you want to. So you can see, and this is easy to understand on an individual level, but when it happens on a mass level, when a whole nation, when a whole group of people, based on fear and wrong perception, they build walls, they make more guns, they start to have cameras, they start to search, the airport. This is to understand what the Thai is looking at in terms of what's coming for our modern world. Because of the militarization, the fear, the wrong perception. This is a root of a lot of suffering in the world on the mass scale. And it begins with the individual scale. If you cannot handle this, if you go through education and you're not taught this, you will become a leader. And if you don't know how the mind works, you will be caught in a view. And my sister Tuệ Nghiêm will speak more about this next week. So I will just stop there. And of course, this you can understand more the root of it in the Buddhist teaching in the sutra called the Kalama. Where these monks from a different tradition, many teachers teach them many things, and they don't know which one to follow because they all make sense. And so this is a kind of the Buddha teaching. Look, you need to test it yourself and see if it works. And so it's a kind of the sutra that shows the spirit of openness, of tolerance in Buddhism. Now we move into direct experimentation. And in Vietnamese, it's thực chứng. Có cái móc không hả? Có không? Thực chứng. Real. Experience. And this is the heart of the Buddhist teaching as well, is that it's based on our own experience, that we believe in something or not believe in something. And this is also found in the Kalama Sutra. And so it's not a belief based on what a teacher or what the sutra or what someone says, but is from your direct. And we need to keep this in mind, because it's very easy just to follow. And so the practice of meditation will help us know more and more what is appropriate for us. So these two is very linked to appropriateness and skillfulness. Sometimes we learn something and we have not fully tasted it, and we are very easy to teach it. This is a kind of danger a little bit. Also in our work of what do you call it, of Sangha building, of helping the world, This is where it can be dangerous in terms of if you have not found ease, found peace within yourself, have touched that within us, and we go and teach it, I think that's where it can become in Vietnamese they call Phật sự. It's kind of like you do the Buddha's work, Sangha building is for instance, and you see this a lot in Sangha building, like you come into the Sangha, you join the Sangha, and you learn of the 5 mindfulness training, you practice it, but it's not fully kind of ripe, and then you hear there's a 14 mindfulness training. You're like, wow, 14, bigger number. And you get involved, and you have a good spirit. You want to continue to engage Buddhism, but because of this direct experience, direct ripening, 2 ends, 1 end. This is very important, and it links to direct experimentation. We're very good to what do you call it? We like newness. We like okay, once we know it and we've done it once, like walking meditation. Okay, we touched it. I say now I can walk meditation, but we don't continue it. It's like let's do something else. Let's have jogging meditation. Let's do fast walking meditation, or sitting. Doing sitting every day. You touch it and you get bored of it. And you're like, let's go sit outside, or let's sit. We because of our restlessness and our not stillness. This direct experimentation could be a temptation. We haven't really touched this kind of stillness, this kind of calm, this peace, this freedom. It hasn't ripened in the Buddhist circle, and we're too quick to start engaging in the world, Sangha building. And what will happen is 2 of those elements come together, and you have collision of views. And this is something we need to know as because OI members, one of their fundamental, not fundamental, one of their a misperception or a kind of drive in OI members is to Sangha build and to engage in the world and to help do what Thai did during his time. And this is, how do you say it? There needs to be some caution with that. Because I think as we've talked with OI members and Sangha builders, there's a lot of colliding of viewpoints if we're not careful. And so this is in direct experimentation. We like it. You can see how Thai was influenced by the kind of the West scientific rational thinking, kind of just to test everything. But do we need to test everything? Sometime in Dharma sharing or consultation, I hear someone describe their suffering, and it's something I've never experienced. Do I need to go experiment with that? No, there's another thing going on. There's also a kind of intuition, our wisdom, our own deep looking. So this is kind of out there because we just recently had a wake-up retreat, and a young man said, I want to experience everything, including was it open sex, open relationship? And I was like, oh, okay, good. It's quite interesting because we did hear a lot of sharing about the suffering surrounding that, but he didn't want to just, believe in someone else and wanted to experiment. Very, I chose not to. It's quite very clear where it leads because there's a wrong perception and we don't look deeply in that we're lacking something and we're chasing maybe a kind of sensual pleasure. Anyway, certain things that we can look deeply into. And from the deep looking, we don't need. We can see clearly. So the experimentation doesn't. This is where it's a kind of fine line. And I think we all know this. It's kind of obvious that there are certain things you kind of know it's hot. Don't touch it. But it's very tempting. And so experimentation is very tempting. Maybe we have a sound of the bell before we begin. Continue. One time I heard Tai share that before he brings out a new teaching, a new practice, he's practiced it for around 10 years. I think I was doing a Dharma talk. I forget which practice it was. But that's pretty... and there are other instances where I see Tai held on to his insight for a long time. And then he would reveal it to the Sangha. And that's something I'm learning. Because usually we find something, we learn something, we experience something, and we're right away, And the way my education is, we share it out before it's ripe. There's something that is in the training is very hard to transmit, and that is the thing I'm learning here. There's certain things we have to cherish and keep practicing until it ripes. I know it is not always the case, but there's certain things that you practice, and you find lightness, liberation, more insight, and it's amazing what happens when you keep it. Don't share it out too quickly. Have you ever thought about writing a book? Yeah? Have you ever shared it with someone and then all of a sudden the inspiration goes away? Or like you want to do something and you get so excited and you share it to too many people and then all of a sudden you just don't do it anymore. I don't know, there's something psychological about that. And in the mindfulness training, in our practice, there's something to do with intuition as well. There's a kind of inner training that is happening. When you succeed and you have an insight on one of the trainings, it's very tempting to share it in Dharma sharing right away. I know you're supposed to, and the monks encourage you to. But just, I throw that out there as an asterisk. To cook something, don't let people look in it. You're cooking potatoes, stop lifting the lid and letting people look into it is not going to cook. I don't know how else to share this way of training. Outside, you don't train like this, right? In education, university, you have something, you write it on Facebook and you let everyone know. You have to live here at least 5 years for you to kind of to taste that, to have that direct experience. There was something I wanted to share about experimentation. Yes. And when you discover something from your experience and from your experimentation, don't make a thing out of it. You know, you discover that these shoes are amazing, and you just go around telling all your brothers, you know, these shoes are amazing. They help you run. Their back keeps your back. You never have backaches again, and you begin to form a theory around it. You make a thing out of it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. You discover a new food that's like, oh, you know, you went on the internet and it starts to like, you know, and it becomes something that will make the openness less. Slowly, your thing you discover, you hold it. That is so hard to do. So I'm very sensitive to that, as well as I have suffered a lot because of my own thing out of it. I help kind of form the teenage program. One of my suffering as an abbot in Deer Park Monastery was I helped for 6 years to form the teenage program, you know, because just the teenagers, no parents. And I remember the teenagers came to us after a family retreat, and they spoke to me, and they shared to me, you know, only me, that they shared, oh, we don't want our parents here. And I remember it's very inspiring to see the young people, Vietnamese American, and I really connected to them, and I can feel that they need space from their parents. Because the teenagers with their parents around, they always get followed by their parents. And, you know, did you drink enough water? Or, come on, hurry up, you're late for walking meditation. And so I remember hearing that from the teenagers, and slowly we convinced the parents not to come. But some parents wanted to be staff, so they came into the staff to watch their kids. So anyway, I was involved in this, and I had to slowly, skillfully get rid of the parents. And after 6 years, we finally have a real, and every year we would do it. And one year the Sangha decided, maybe we should combine the teenage program with the family because we're doing too many retreats. And I got really upset. I was like, you know how long it took to form that program? And I remember that meeting, I was quite not appropriate and not skillful. And this is Sangha building, you know. I was doing good. I was building the Sangha. I was doing what Thai wants. But I didn't listen to anyone else. Well, I pretend I listened. But I think I came back really hurt. See, I made a thing out of it. See, it's a good thing, but it's still not good because it's. I was anyway. That's where the phrase "don't make a thing out of it" comes from. Don't make your thing become a thing. I know that's hard to translate. So that's involved with dogmatism. That's like a technical word for it, right? Dogmatism and all the ism. But the ism is you make a whatever it is into an ism. So that's what to be careful of. So we'll move into appropriateness. Appropriateness in Vietnamese is ke, ke. I just learned this morning ke is kind of like I said, I know what cơ is, like cơ hội and căng cơ and stuff, but what is ke? It's kind of like appropriateness, right? But I don't know why there's two words, But it goes with ke li, which is, I keep forgetting something today. Ke cơ and ke li, this is appropriate to the situation. And this is appropriate to the principle, to the spirit, to the to the principle, li, spirit, or in the Buddhist circle we say maybe to the Dharma, to whatever it is that doesn't make you. It feels okay. So there's a situation, and there's also the Dharma. Sometimes the Dharma, if you teach it and it is not appropriate, then it becomes, I don't want to use, it's kind of hard, but like poisonous. Like you do harm to the Dharma. For instance, you go home and you're so inspired after 2 weeks in Plum Village, and you have mindfulness, Plum Village, and you go home and you tell it to your family. Eating in silence is so good for you. You'll touch peace, but you don't know the situation of the person. You don't know the situation of your family. It's not appropriate. First of all, it's not skillful, but it's not appropriate. They're not ready. And the Dharma is not for that. You go to the Dharma, but it's not something you put in the Dharma. And this is, we hear this all the time from my own experience, as well as many consultation and Dharma sharing. And so knowing what is appropriate for the situation, for our time. I remember first learning about the practice, my first retreat. I came home and I organized everything in our house. I put everything back to where it should go, the shoes. And then the closet, I helped my mom redo her food stuff, the canned food. And it became an obsession because I had an idea that when you put things mindfully, it goes back to where it should be. You ever have that idea? As a beginning practitioner, it's the most beautiful and tempting idea. To practice mindfulness, when you put a cup down, it has a place. I mean, it makes sense, right? But when it becomes an obsession, okay, that toothbrush is not, it goes in here. The shoe, it goes there. These mats, they should be straighter. So we begin to, and then I go home and I do this to the house. And my two brothers back from college are back from summer, and they share the same house. And the story, we had a lot of interesting conversations. Definitely not open. So I caused a lot of suffering because of my lý luận. I have a reason for everything, and because it's lý, so when something is appropriate, it is also in line with the Dharma, in line with something more true, more human, more open, more whatever, less suffering. How about that? If it is appropriate, it will not cause suffering. And this is something we need to ingrain in ourselves, because we believe so much in truth. We believe that this really happened, and we say it. But it's the truth. But the person is not ready for it. And so we cause suffering. So truth does not harm. But we have an idea about truth that is like objective. Somewhere there's a truth. This is really what happened. And we cause suffering because of our truth. There's many truths. And that's very hard to believe. Especially when you're right. When you're right, it's like, okay, I'll give it a year, but I'm still right. A lot of suffering for yourself as well, because you hold it like this, and when you see that brother, you kind of, you see the sister, you kind of, because you're holding on to something. Remember that image, huh? You have a choice. Relax. It's true, but there's many truths. And it's such a hard training. You want to taste it? Come stay here 1 year. We'll put you on a cooking team. Like Phap Hữu shared, huh? Advanced training. I don't know, did he share that in the late? No, he shared it on Thursday. Our cooking team is the most advanced training. It's kind of strange for a monastery. Huh? It's supposed to be in the meditation hall. Sorry, I kind of a comedian. So when we say Kelly, how do we know if it's appropriate? This is requires us to go deeper and deeper as we do the Sangha building, as we become OI members, to touch into being and so on. The two threes, just remember, the 3 seals and the 3 doors. And you use that to test everything. You want to experiment? Go ahead. But use this to test. In chemistry, it's called litmus paper. You throw it in to see if it's the right thing. Or in Vietnamese, they say use fire to test gold, right? Lấy lửa, lấy lửa thử vàng. It's beautiful saying, huh? It's like, you want to see if it's real gold? Put fire to it. And all the impurities will separate and the gold will collect. So the three seals, I think you know already. Some of you, 3 seals. What are they? Is impermanence, non-self, and nirvana. This is 3 doors. 12 pot. And just remember the S's. Right? Empty, signless, aimless. That's how I remember it. Sorry. I just remember the three doors. Yes, just remember emptiness, signlessness, aimlessness. And this helps us in our practice. When you make a thing out of it, it's no longer very related to other things, right? And we become caught by it. Sign here also represents words, concepts. There's one word that challenges people. You know, when we do the morning recitation before the nuns and monks chant, and we say, remove your inferiority complex, superiority complex, and your equality complex. When Thai first came out with that text and we had to tour the US, many people asked this question, what's wrong with equality? How is that a complex? So the word equality or the idea of equality can be a thing. Who has a thing about equality? Like, how come the monks are sitting one side and the nuns sitting the other side? Or how come the nuns have smaller bowls and the monks have bigger bowls? Or how come the bell is always on that side? Or what else? There's so many. How come the grass is greener on this side? Well, there's some good ones. I used to have a. We should make a catalog of equality as a thing. And it's a complex. Equality is good, and getting people to injustice is cause suffering. Inequality can cause suffering. So it's not to deny that is happening in our world as well. But just don't make a thing out of it. And going everywhere to always look for. This is to not be caught by dualism. It's just all skillful means. You know, we wear this just for a way to skillfully do something, to manifest something. You know, when Thai was in Vietnam or in America touring, and a reporter asked him, "Are you from the north or from the south?" Do you know that story? And Thai says, "I am from the center," right? Do you center? And he is from the center. I mean, from Hue or something like that, right? And he's from the center. And we love that story. I love that story. It's like, wow. And if we're not careful, then we can make the center become a thing. And I've seen that living in the monastery, where it's like you don't want to choose left and right, but then you choose middle. And you're always choosing middle. No, I'm not going to. And you make a thing out of centralness. You're so we get caught. So the idea of centeredness is to help the reporter in that situation take away his idea that there's just north and south. So that's the means. I use that answer to help that reporter in that moment to let go of his north and south. But as us, when we hear the story, We love it. And then we hang on to centralness. And we go around being careful. No, I'm not choosing. No. And that becomes an obstacle. We become kind of like relative, liberal, not always. Let's see. It seems like I'm open, but actually I'm very tight. That is stuckness. This is from my own suffering of practicing with that, of always avoiding extreme, to the point where, you kind of like, you know what's the right thing to do. There's also, we have to, so the idea here is, when it's true to the Dharma, is to not be caught by the word, by the sign. And therefore, you don't grasp. That's the aimlessness. You need a little freedom from that. So these are all, these three are what I would say concentration. They help us. So you might choose a week to contemplate signlessness, to look and to see where you're caught with signs, and to test for yourself, or aimlessness. So in a way, they are like Plum Village koan, something that you kind of hold here like a mother carrying her child around, and you begin to look like that. You look and you sense when you're being not aimless, you want something. And so you come back to your steps. Yes, the tea will still be there. The hot water will still be there. So you slow yourself down. So these practices, these ideas here are for us to practice. So what I share with you is, so watch when you're not being aimless. So how to touch aimlessness while we walk. You make a step, a left step, a right step. Or aimlessness when you eat. When you put morsel in your food, in your mouth, and you put the spoon down, and you chew, and you put 100% in the act of chewing, savoring the food, contemplation with nature, Mother Earth, the sun, before you take the next spoon. I remember having to train this. When I'm chewing, I'm preparing for the next one. It's a big habit I had to remove. And so the same thing with our walking. So these two are very trainable, but they can help us also when we have ideas and concepts. And so when we practice the trainings, and we'll learn more this coming weeks, is how they speak of a truth or of a way, but we need to know when to apply it, so that it is appropriate for the situation with the people, and if it is appropriate to the Dharma, to the guiding spirit of the Buddha's teaching. It's kind of like, I think Tai had shared, to prepare to operate on someone, they need to be healthy. So you prepare and that's kind of, that's tough, huh? But sometimes it's like that. I think Thai's method, I sense that. When we first come into the community, Thai is very gentle with us. He nurtures us. Everything, he flower water us. He appreciate. And then when we have enough strong roots, Thai start to trim. I don't know, have you been trimmed by Thai before? You're lucky, because it is painful operation, because you have something you're holding on to, and it 1 month, and it touches your ego, and so there's not enough liberation. You had an idea about it, something, whatever that is, you're holding on to tightly. And so in the Sangha building, it's very important that we get this one down. Because we sometimes bring the stuff in our, that has not ripened, has not let go yet, and we start to Sangha build. We make Sangha become a thing, and so on. But inside of us, it's not fully still, fully. There's certain things still, and that can come and bite you. So this is the Buddha's teaching, is not for us to do Phak It's to help us relieve our suffering, and in doing so, we interbe with the world, and how we do it. And you can see this as in today's society, as people build up fame, power. After 10, 20 years, what happens? They did not ripe. Sexual scandal, political scandal, corruption. There's a movement going on that is so beautiful in society. It is like the rain washing and revealing all the things that are going on underneath all that fame, power, wealth, political, and in the political world, in the corporate world, as well as in the entertainment world. This is because the person did not do the homework, did not care for the ripening inside, but they were tempted with the external achievement, success. And this is where direct experience, direct liberation, direct touching of peace, happiness. And so when you do this, you become more appropriate, more skillful. So I'll move into skillfulness in here. In Vietnamese, is phương tiện. Đúng không? So these are the methods and practices to help us teach, to guide, and to apply the Buddhist teaching. These are ways that we do it. Skillfulness here can be seen as a means, skillful means. And I think is very fundamental in the Buddha's teaching, and he has great examples. What is it, the raft? When you get to a river and you see you need to cross, and you build yourself a raft, and it helps you cross the river. and you get attached because the raft is so cool. You did it by yourself, your hand, and then you start carrying the raft around, even though you don't need it anymore. And the Buddha asks, is this a wise thing to do, brothers and sisters? To carry a raft around. And of course, the students apply obediently. No, it's not the skillful thing to do. You should leave it there and share it with others and be generous because they might need it. But we have to ask ourselves, do we do that? So the skillful means is very easy to get caught by the raft. So appropriateness and skillfulness. I think those are where areas where we learn a lot from living in the Sangha, and we make mistakes and we adjust. So they allow us to be creative, allow us to, so it's not a kind of perfection and not written, and there's no manual. So we can always continue to be more appropriate, more skillful. I'll read with you a text from the book, the Interbeing book. Thầy wrote, the spirit of non-attachment to views and the spirit of direct experimentation lead to open-mindedness and compassion, both in the realm of perception of reality and in the area of relationships. So openness and direct experimentation, it keeps us open to experiencing life, experiencing being alive, interacting. And there's a word compassion in there. It helps us be compassionate, very important. So it's not to experiment to be open like a scientist, but in the Buddhist tradition, it is based on compassion. It is to relieve suffering. It's not just to describe reality in the world or how the mind works and so on, but just enough so that there is compassion in the world, in society, in our families, in ourselves. So this is a distinction from more the scientific endeavor, which is just to try to figure out how this thing works, where it comes from, and so on. And sometimes in interacting with scientists and the sciences, if we're not careful, we can also lose a little bit of the keli, the primary reason for the Buddha's finding the teaching and the practices to help relieve suffering. It is not to come up with a new theory or about the world or about our minds and how things work. The spirit of appropriateness and skillful means lead to the capacity to be creative and to reconcile, both of which are necessary for the development and the effective realization of the ideal of serving living beings. So this is very Mahayana, kind of save the world. Reconcile here can be incorporate, to integrate. So appropriateness and skillful means help us be in touch with what's happening in our world and to find ways to help relieve the suffering. And I think most of you know who are here that one of the primary suffering in the world now is climate change. And you can hear it already in weather reports that seem like they are from movies, but they are not. Climate change is not going to come anymore. It is here. And many of us maybe might have families in some parts of the world. Indonesia recently, I think in a few days ago, had a big tsunami. This will, scientists predict, will occur more regular and more regular. So that means displacement of population. So we have to prepare ourselves not to be in despair, to be aware, to be mindful of the present moment. And that yes, we have suffering, we have some healing to do, we have some transformation. But that's why Thais dedicated his whole life to building the Sangha, to building a refuge. So climate change, alienation, loneliness, despair, depression, suicide, these numbers are on the rise because of urbanization and the breakdown of families. So whatever in your field you're working on, these are real issues of our society, and they are not happening out there. They're very connected to how we are in the world now. Young people having no direction, being restless because of the media industry. These are all thought about and mastered. It's not coincidental. You know, the mechanism that drives capitalism, why we are so why my niece is hard for her to put down the gadget, the screen. So this is not. So we do have some contribution to make. It's not to say, you know, just this is what I love about Thai's work, that we don't wait until we're liberated or find peace and then do the good work. Actually, interbeing is that we transform ourselves and we help transform the world. Whatever scope you're in, it could be on your individual level because there's so much suffering you cannot, you know, be involved, and you take care of yourself. Make yourself less gruntle, less obnoxious, less whatever, less provoking, reactive, personal level, or group level, family. Work on the family level. Work on your neighborhood. What can you do for your neighborhood? How can you help build a Sangha to be a refuge in your city for the neighborhood? Because you see young people are no longer going to church, going to temples, and they're looking for a spiritual direction. So building Sangha, Thaya shared, is the most noble task because they are refugee camps. They're like refugee camps. You know, refugees in the media a lot lately. And there's a refugee going on now. People coming to monasteries, retreat centers, finding refuge because of a war going on. A war on restlessness, discrimination, or no break from the rushing energy. So there is another war going on. In Thai's time, it was the war in Vietnam. In our time, what is the war? And what is the peace? So this is something for us to reflect on as we engage and build the order of interbeing. It's very tempting to do the outer work. Is it đạo Phật đi vào cuộc đời is Buddhism that goes into society needs to go hand in hand with Buddhism that goes inside your own heart. Đi vào nội tâm hả? Thầy has a saying is that the way out is in. And it's not surprising that it's a very recent calligraphy of Thai to remind us that don't forget to do your homework. Because building Sangha and doing the great thing, the Phật sự, and it's very glamorous. Very people praise you, and there's result. There's it gets. But if we don't do our homework, when the time comes, very unstable. Your emotion will come up. You won't let go. That's why Sangha is very important. They are protection, and they help prevent us from going and holding on too tightly. And so the vision of the Buddha as a Sangha is doable. We don't all have to be the Buddha. We just need to be part-time. And we take turns. Yeah? That means, you... So it's our protection from becoming dogmatic and so on. And so for me, that's my gratefulness to Thai and to building, to emphasizing building Sangha as a way as to keep us in line with these spirits. That's why in the charter of Interbeing it's very important that when you become an OI member, you grow from the Sangha. But now lately there's a trend that the people want to receive the OI membership or become an OI member like the world. It's very worldly. It's like, I want to be an OI. How do I become an OI? It's like very isolated. An OI member or a person who grows in the Dharma grows from the Sangha. That's why you cannot become an OI member out of thin air. It comes from a Sangha. I mean, I guess you can. I don't want to be dogmatic about it. It might be in Alaska somewhere. There's no Sangha. And you can become an OI member. But the intention there is that you come from a culture. You have support. You have brothers and sisters that know you. They know you very well. They are your protection. They understand you. They know your weaknesses. They know your strength. And it's very easy to just like be by yourself and operating on your own, because it's very hard to live with those who know you. Sangha is all nice, Plum Village is all nice. Wait until you live here. It's very easy, but difficult because your brothers know you. And it's easier to live as a tourist. Oh, nice. Oh, so beautiful. Everything is so wonderful. Plum Village is so nice for 1 week. Woo. You stay here and we get to know you and we let you grow some roots and then we start trimming. It's like you don't show up on a time. Why is that? Look at your room. How do you live inside your room? You look very good when you see the monks walking around and all of a sudden. But I take a look at your room. How do you live inside your room? That is the in. Huh? The way outside needs to be inside. If you cannot do the little work, when the tsunami comes, no foundation. So in our Sangha building, please do your homework. I hope that wasn't too intense. I get shining light that I'm too intense sometimes, so I apologize. But this is me speaking to myself, so I need to be careful. Thank you, Sangha, for being here with us. Please enjoy breathing the bell and let go of everything I say. Please don't hang on to it, okay? Oh, it's great. Yeah. Throw it away.